The ship shook again. Captain Tom grabbed the edge of the console to stay on his feet. The Wanderer was dying around him. Lights flickered, and the ship's computer kept repeating the same warning over and over. Hull breach in sectors 3 through 7. Life support failing. Tom wiped blood from his forehead. The attack had come without warning. One moment, they were flying through empty space. The next, the massive scavenger ship had appeared, its weapons already firing. The scavengers. Everyone feared them. Tall, insect-like creatures with 4 arms and razor-sharp mandibles. They took what they wanted and killed anyone in their way. Captain. First Officer Pete's voice came through Tom's earpiece. They've attached to our ship. They're cutting through thee. The sound of gunfire drowned out his words, followed by screams. Then silence. Tom's heart raced. He was alone now. The crew of 35 good men and women, all gone. The ship's cameras showed the scavengers moving through the corridors, their exoskeletons gleaming under the emergency lights. They were coming for him. He had minutes, maybe less. Tom ran to the back of the bridge and pulled open the small maintenance hatch in the floor. It was barely big enough for him to fit through. But it was his only chance. He dropped down into the cramped space between decks, pulling the hatch closed above him. In the darkness, he moved quietly. The metal floor above creaked as heavy footsteps entered the bridge. The scavengers had arrived. Tom crawled through the narrow maintenance tunnel until he reached the emergency systems room. It was a small space filled with backup equipment, rarely used. He closed and locked the door behind him. "Think, Tom, think," he muttered. The scavengers would find him soon. There was no escape. The Wanderer was too damaged to fly, and the life pods had been destroyed in the first attack. His eyes fell on a dusty metal box in the corner. The emergency beacon. It was ancient technology, installed when the ship was built over 100 years ago. No one used these beacons anymore, not since the Great Exile, when humans were driven from their home systems. Tom pulled the box open. Inside was a simple device with a single button. If he activated it, it would send a distress signal on an old frequency, one that only human ships could detect. But there were no human ships anymore, not in this part of the galaxy. The last human military fleet had disappeared 50 years ago, running from the Confederation forces that had hunted them across the stars. A crash came from outside the door. The scavengers were searching the maintenance level. Tom had no time left. He pressed the button. The beacon hummed to life, its small screen displaying the simple message. Terrain is emitting. Tom quickly typed in the ship's coordinates and added a message. Help us. The beacon beeped once, confirming the transmission. It would keep sending the signal until its power ran out, which could be weeks or months. The door shook as something heavy slammed against it. Metal groaned. It wouldn't hold for long. Tom sat on the floor, his back against the wall. He pulled out his service pistol, knowing it would do little against the scavenger's armor. But he wouldn't die without a fight. "Come on, then," he whispered. The door burst open. 3 scavengers stood there, their compound eyes reflecting the red emergency lights. The leader stepped forward, mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. Tom fired his pistol until it was empty. The shots bounced off their armor. As the creatures moved toward him, Tom's eyes went to the beacon, still blinking its message into the void of space. It was foolish hope. There was no one to answer. Humans were scattered across the galaxy, hiding, keeping their heads down. The fighting spirit that had once made them feared had been beaten out of them long ago. There was no human fleet, no armada that would come to save a single merchant ship. But as the first scavenger grabbed him with its clawed hands, lifting him off the ground, Tom held on to that foolish hope. Somewhere out there, someone might be listening. The scavenger brought Tom's face close to its own. Its breath smelled like rotting meat. "Where are others like you?" It rasped in broken common speech. "Gone," Tom said, blood trickling from his mouth. "All gone." As darkness closed in around him, His last thought was of the beacon, still sending its desperate plea into the emptiness of space. Help us. Admiral Jack stood on the bridge of the Vengeance staring at the stars through the massive view screen. The ship was quiet, running on night cycle. Most of the crew was asleep. Jack preferred these quiet hours when he could think without interruption. The Vengeance was the flagship of Earth's 7th Fleet, the largest collection of human warships left in the galaxy. For 50 years, they had been moving from system to system, never staying in one place too long. Always hiding, always running. Humans were not welcome in most of the galaxy anymore. The Confederation, a group of powerful alien species, had driven them from Earth generations ago. They feared what humans might become if left unchecked. Too creative, too adaptive, too dangerous. So now the fleet drifted in the outer reaches, far from the busy trade routes and settled worlds. They survived by mining asteroids and trading with small, neutral outposts where no one asked questions. Jack rubbed his tired eyes. He was getting old for a fleet admiral. At 55, he had spent most of his life on this ship, watching the fleet grow smaller year by year as ships were lost or broke down beyond repair. "Admiral," a voice called from the communications station. "We're picking up something strange." Jack walked over to where Officer Dave sat hunched over his console. Dave was young, barely 20, but he had a talent for signals that no computer could match. "What is it?" Jack asked. I think it's a human emergency beacon, sir," Dave said, his voice filled with disbelief. "I've never heard one before, but it matches all the old patterns in our database." Jack's heart skipped a beat. "Are you sure? There hasn't been a beacon signal in over 30 years. "I'm sure, sir. It's weak and far away, but it's definitely one of ours." Dave adjusted some controls, and a soft beeping filled the bridge. "There's a message attached." Jack leaned closer as words appeared on the screen. "Help us." Below it were coordinates. "Where is it coming from?" Jack asked. Dave punched in commands. "The outer rim, sir, near the Drax's sector." That's deep in Confederation space." Jack straightened up, his mind racing. Responding to the beacon would mean taking the fleet into dangerous territory. It could reveal their position to the Confederation. It could be a trap. But it could also be real. Someone needed help. Someone human. "Wake the command staff," Jack ordered. "I want a meeting in 10 minutes." The command room was tense. 8 officers sat around the table, all looking at Jack. "It's a trap," Commander Bell said bluntly. She was Jack's second in command, a tough woman who had fought in the last battles against the Confederation. "The beacon technology is old. Anyone could have copied it." "I agree," said Major Lim, head of security. "The coordinates are deep in hostile space. We'd be detected long before we got there." Jack looked around the table. "And if it's real, if there are humans out there asking for our help, then they're already dead," Bell said quietly. "That signal is at least 2 weeks old, based on the distance." The room fell silent. Jack knew they were right. The smart move was to ignore the signal, to keep the fleet safe, but something inside him rebelled at the thought. "We've been running for 50 years, he said finally. "Hiding. Surviving. Is that all we are now? Survivors?" No one answered. Jack stood up. "I've made my decision. We will answer the call." Belle opened her mouth to object, but Jack raised his hand. "I know the risks, but if we ignore this, if we turn our backs on our own people, then the Confederation has already won. They've turned us into something less than human." He walked to the view screen and brought up a map of the galaxy. The beacon's location blinked red, impossibly far away. "Set course for these coordinates," he ordered. "Maximum speed. And wake the fleet. All ships." As the officers hurried to carry out his orders, Jack stared at the blinking light. He thought of the message, 2 simple words carrying so much desperation across the stars. "Help us." "We're coming," he whispered. "Hold on. We're coming. The human Armada moved through space like a steel storm. 53 ships, from the massive Vengeance to the smallest fighters, all pushing their engines beyond what was safe. They had been traveling for 5 days, and the strain was beginning to show. On the bridge of the Vengeance Admiral Jack studied the damage reports. 3 ships had already dropped out of formation, their engines overheating. They would catch up when they could, but Jack knew they might not make it in time. "Admiral," called Navigator Ben from his station, "we have an unknown ship ahead. It's not moving." Jack looked up at the main screen. A small vessel drifted against the backdrop of stars. It showed no lights, no signs of power. "Scan it," Jack ordered. Officer Lisa ran the scans. "It's a refugee ship, sir. Life support is failing. I'm detecting about 30 life forms inside, but their signs are weak." Jack frowned. Refugees weren't uncommon in this part of space, but this far from any habitable systems, they were in trouble. "Bring us alongside," he ordered. "Prepare a boarding team." Commander Bell stepped forward. "Sir, we don't have time for this." "The beacon." "The beacon has waited this long," Jack said firmly. "It can wait a few more hours." The refugee ship was cold and dark when Jack and his team stepped aboard. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing huddled forms in thermal blankets. The aliens looked up with large, glowing eyes that shimmered with fear and hope. They were bright ones, a peaceful species known for their ability to absorb and emit light. Their skin glowed faintly blue in the darkness. One of them stood, a small female with patches of her light gone dark. "Burns," Jack realized. "I am Glow," she said in broken common speech. "You help?" Jack nodded. "We'll help. What happened to your ship?" Glow's light pulsed with emotion. "Scavengers attack. We escape, but engines break. Many die." At the mention of scavengers, Jack exchanged looks with Bell. "The same raiders that might have attacked the beacon ship." "We can take you aboard our ship," Jack said. "But we're heading into dangerous space." Glow straightened her small frame. "We know danger. Scavengers everywhere now. They take worlds. Take people." Jack helped her sit down as medics attended to the other refugees. "What do you mean? They take worlds?" "Many planets fall," Glow said, her light dimming. "Scavengers stronger now. Protected." "Protected by who?" Bell asked. "Confederation," Glow whispered. "They let scavengers take outer worlds. Don't stop them." Jack felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold ship. Why would the Confederation allow that? Glow's eyes met his. "Scavengers take human worlds first. Confederation happy when humans suffer." Later, on the Vengeance Jack watched as the refugees were settled in the medical bay. They had brought the Bright One ship along, towed behind one of the smaller cruisers. Jack couldn't bring himself to leave them behind. "They're giving us valuable intelligence," Bell admitted as they walked back to the bridge. "If the scavengers are operating with Confederation approval, we're heading into something bigger than a rescue mission." Jack nodded. "This isn't just about saving one ship anymore. It's about finding out what's happening on the rim." As they entered the bridge, alarms began to sound. "Sir," called Officer Dave, "we're picking up ships ahead. Lots of them." The main screen showed dozens of dots moving in formation, Confederation patrol ships. "They've spotted us," Lisa said. "They're changing course to intercept." Jack looked at the map, calculating quickly. To reach the beacon, they would have to go straight through the patrol. "Options?" he asked. Bell shook her head. "We can go around, but it will add 3 days to our journey." Jack thought of the message that had brought them this far. "Help us." And he thought of what Glow had said about the scavengers taking worlds with Confederation approval. "We don't go around," he decided. "We go through." The bridge fell silent. "Sir?" Bell questioned. Jack looked at his crew, determination in his eyes. 50 years of hiding ends today. Signal the fleet to prepare for battle." It's time to remind the galaxy why they feared humans in the first place. The battle had been quick and brutal. The Confederation patrol ships had not expected such fierce resistance. They certainly hadn't expected the advanced weapons the human fleet carried. 7 patrol ships destroyed, the rest scattered across the sector. Now, 3 days later, the human fleet had reached the source of the beacon. Lieutenant Mary stood on the bridge of the Vengeance looking at the remains of a merchant ship floating in the emptiness of space. The Wanderer she read from the broken hull. Registered out of Proxima Colony. Admiral Jack nodded grimly. Scan for survivors. The scan took only moments. No life signs, Officer Liza reported. But I'm picking up engine trails. The attackers went that way. She pointed to a nearby star system. Track them, Jack ordered. Mary stepped forward. Sir, I request permission to lead the ground team. Jack studied her. At 32, Mary was one of his best officers. Smart, tough, and skilled in combat. She had fought well against the Confederation patrol. Permission granted, he said. Take a small team. Fast and quiet. The mining colony hung in orbit around a dead moon. From the outside, it looked normal, but Mary's team found no traffic around it, no signs of the usual mining activity. Something's wrong, she whispered as their small stealth ship approached. There should be transport ships, miners coming and going. The team of 6 docked at a maintenance airlock, bypassing the main entry. Inside, the corridors were dark, emergency lights casting red shadows on the walls. The air smelled of fear and death. Mary led them deeper into the colony, weapons ready. They found the first body near the mess hall, a colony security guard, his skull crushed. Scavengers, muttered Jim, her second in command, looking at the distinctive claw marks on the walls. They moved on, finding more bodies. Colony workers, mostly. When they reached the main mining area, they discovered the truth. Hundreds of aliens were chained to the walls and floor, forced to sort through piles of ore. Guards walked among them, tall insectoid creatures with 4 arms. Scavengers. They've turned it into a slave operation, Mary said, her voice tight with anger. Jim pointed to a separate area, where about 20 humans were kept in cages. They looked worse than the other slaves. Bruised, beaten, some barely alive. We need to report this, Jim whispered. Mary shook her head. We need to help them first. The team split up, setting charges around the colony's power systems. When they blew, the lights went out. In the darkness, they struck. Mary had fought scavengers in simulations, but the real thing was different. They were faster, stronger, but humans were smarter. Her team moved like ghosts, taking down guards before they could raise alarms. While the others freed the slaves, Mary went to the human prisoners. Most were too weak to walk, but one woman looked up as Mary broke open her cage. Another human, she said in wonder. I thought we were the last ones. Mary helped her up. I'm Lieutenant Mary, Earth's 7th Fleet. What's your name? Rose, the woman said. Her face was thin, her eyes hollow from weeks of torture. They caught us trying to reach the outer colonies. They've been asking about Earth, about our fleet. Mary led her toward the exit as alarms finally began to sound. How long have humans been in this sector? Forever, Rose said. Small settlements, mostly. We keep quiet, stay out of sight. The Confederation doesn't know about most of us, but the scavengers found us anyway. They've been hunting humans specifically. Jim ran up to them. We've got everyone we could find. The ships are waiting. As they hurried back to their vessels, Mary looked at Rose. Why are they hunting humans? Rose's face darkened. They want to find Earth. They want to make sure humans never rise again. She coughed, blood speckling her lips. But they're too late, aren't they? You're already here. Mary helped her into the ship as explosions rocked the colony behind them. Yes, she said. We're here, and we're not hiding anymore. As their ships raced back to the fleet, Rose gripped Mary's arm with surprising strength. "Promise me," she whispered. "Promise me they'll pay for what they did." Mary looked at the dying woman, at the other rescued humans, and aliens watching her with desperate hope in their eyes. "They'll pay," she promised. "The whole galaxy will know what happened here." Admiral Jack studied the star map on the main screen. The rescued slaves had provided valuable information. The scavengers had a main base at the twin moons, 2 small moons orbiting a gas giant. All ships passing through this sector had to go by these moons. It was the perfect place for pirates to attack passing vessels. "They have at least 30 ships there," Commander Bell said, "including 3 capital ships. We're outnumbered." Jack nodded. The human fleet had grown smaller after the battle with the Confederation patrol. Some ships had been damaged and left behind for repairs. They now had 42 vessels ready for combat. "Numbers aren't everything," Jack said. "The twin moons also give us an advantage. They limit the directions the scavengers can attack from." Lieutenant Mary, newly promoted after the rescue mission, pointed to the larger of the 2 moons. "Their main base is here, built into the moon itself. Their ships dock on the surface. Then that's where we hit them," Jack decided. "Hard and fast." The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel behind the gas giant, hidden from the scavenger base. Jack split his forces into 3 groups. The main battle group would attack from the front. A smaller group would circle around and hit the base from behind. The third group, led by the Vengeance would wait in reserve. "They won't expect us to attack directly," Jack told his officers. "They think humans are weak and scared. Let's show them how wrong they are." The attack began at what would have been dawn on Earth. The first group of human ships burst around the gas giant, weapons already firing. The scavenger ships scrambled to respond, but they were caught unprepared. 3 of their smaller vessels exploded before they could raise their shields. From the bridge of the Vengeance, Jack watched the battle unfold. The scavengers had numbers, but the human ships were faster and more maneuverable. And they had surprises. "Group 2, now," Jack ordered. The second group of ships appeared behind the twin moons, cutting off the scavengers' retreat. Caught between the 2 human forces, the scavenger fleet fell into chaos. But they were still dangerous. One of their capital ships turned its massive guns on the human cruiser Defiant tearing through its shields. "The Defiant is in trouble," Officer Lisa reported. Jack nodded. "Time for our last surprise. All ships, deploy armor drones." From the holds of the human vessels came thousands of small drones, each no bigger than a human hand. They swarmed toward the scavenger ships, attaching to their hulls. Where they touched, the ship's armor began to melt. "Nanite weapons," Bell explained to the newer officers. "They eat through metal. Old Earth technology, banned by the Confederation." The scavengers had never seen anything like it. Their ships began to fail as the drones ate through their hulls, weapons, and engines. The largest capital ship tried to flee, but its engines sputtered and died. "Now, Vengeance, Jack ordered. His flagship moved forward, its main guns targeting the scavenger command ship. The shots were precisely aimed, destroying the bridge and engines, but leaving the rest intact. "We want prisoners," Jack reminded his crew, "and we want their data." The battle lasted less than an hour. By the end, 25 scavenger ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 3 vessels, and 7 more were damaged but repairable. "Begin boarding operations," Jack ordered. "I want their base secured and their data systems captured." As human troops stormed the scavenger base, news of the battle spread across the sector. The Confederation outposts went on high alert. Merchant ships changed course to avoid the area. And on dozens of small colonies, humans looked up at the stars with something they hadn't felt in generations: hope. On the mining colony they had liberated, Rose watched a grainy video of the battle, tears streaming down her face. "They came back," she whispered to the other survivors. Humanity came back. Word spread from colony to colony, from hidden outpost to secret settlement. Humans were fighting again. The Armada that answered a single distress call had shown the galaxy that humanity was not defeated. It was awake, and it was angry. 3 days after the Battle of Twin Moons, a Confederation diplomatic ship arrived at the edge of the system. It kept its distance, broadcasting a request to talk. On the bridge of the Vengeance Admiral Jack watched the sleek white vessel on the main screen. They didn't bring more ships, Commander Bell noted. That's something. Jack nodded. The data they had captured from the scavenger base had been damning. Records of hundreds of attacks on peaceful settlements, lists of slaves taken and sold, and proof that the Confederation had known about it all along. Let them come, Jack decided. I want to hear what they have to say. The Confederation diplomat was a tall, thin alien named Vex. His blue skin was marked with the symbols of high office, and his 3 eyes blinked nervously as he was escorted onto the Vengeance. The meeting took place in Jack's ready room. Vex sat across from Jack, Bell, and Lieutenant Mary. No weapons were allowed, but the tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Admiral, Vex began in perfect human speech. The Confederation Council is concerned about recent events. Concerned, Jack repeated flatly. About what exactly? Vex shifted uncomfortably. About the return of human military forces to this sector. About the destruction of Confederation patrol ships. About the attack on a legitimate business operation at the Twin Moons. Mary's fist hit the table. Legitimate. They were slavers and pirates. Vex turned his 3 eyes to her. The official records show they were licensed security contractors. Jack leaned forward. We have their actual records. We know the Confederation approved their operations. We know you looked the other way while they hunted humans specifically. For a moment, Vex was silent. Then he straightened his thin frame. The past is not important now. What matters is the future. The Council demands that human forces return to their designated territories immediately. Or what? Bell asked. Or the Confederation will be forced to respond with its full military might, Vex said. You have won a few small victories, Admiral. But the Confederation has thousands of warships. You cannot hope to stand against them. Jack stood up slowly. I think this meeting is over. Vex blinked in surprise. You have not given your answer. You'll have it soon enough, Jack said. Lieutenant Mary will escort you back to your ship. An hour later, Jack stood before the main communications array. Behind him stood his officers and a group of the rescued slaves, including Rose, who had insisted on being present despite her still healing injuries. Ready to broadcast, sir, Officer Dave said. This will reach every Confederation world and outpost in the sector. Jack nodded. Begin transmission. The red light came on, indicating he was being recorded. Jack looked directly into the camera. My name is Admiral Jack of Earth's 7th Fleet. For 50 years, humans have been in exile, forced from our homeworlds by the Confederation. We accepted this fate to avoid more bloodshed. We scattered across the stars, hiding, surviving. He paused, his face hardening. But no more. Recently, we answered a distress call from a human ship under attack. What we found was not an isolated incident, but a systematic campaign against humans and other species, carried out by the scavengers with Confederation approval. Jack pressed a button, and images from the captured data began to stream alongside his face. The slave camps, the torture chambers, the lists of victims. These are your licensed security contractors, Confederation. These are the monsters you unleashed on innocent people while you looked away. Jack's voice grew stronger, echoing through the transmission. Today, I deliver this message to the Confederation Council. You will acknowledge these crimes. You will help bring the remaining scavengers to justice. You will free all slaves taken by them. And you will recognize the right of all species, including humans, to live in peace. He leaned closer to the camera. If you refuse, if you choose to protect criminals and slavers, then the human fleet will do what you failed to do. We will free the slaves. We will stop the scavengers. And we will fight anyone who stands in our way. Jack's eyes were like steel as he delivered his final words. You feared what humanity might become. You were right to be afraid. 2 weeks after Admiral Jack's message, the human fleet arrived at the scavenger homeworld. It was a harsh planet with toxic oceans and flat, barren lands, the perfect breeding ground for the insect-like raiders that had terrorized the sector for so long. But the humans did not come alone. Behind the 42 ships of Earth's 7th Fleet flew 23 vessels of different designs. Ships from the Bright Ones, ships from the mining colonies, ships from a dozen other species who had suffered under the Scavengers and Confederation rule. On the bridge of the Vengeance Jack looked at the fleet's newest ally. Glow, now recovered from her injuries, stood tall as she addressed the human officers. My people will fight with you, she said, her skin pulsing with blue light. So will the others. You showed us we can stand up. We don't have to hide anymore. Jack nodded. Together, then. The sensors beeped, and Officer Lissa looked up from her station. Sir, we have incoming ships. A lot of them. The main screen showed the approaching fleet. Over 100 scavenger vessels, arranged in battle formation. And behind them, the distinctive white ships of the Confederation. They'd brought reinforcements, Commander Bell said grimly. As expected, Jack replied. He pressed a button on his chair. All ships, battle positions. Remember the plan. The human fleet and its allies spread out, forming 3 battle groups. The Vengeance led the main force, facing the enemy head-on. The scavenger ships attacked first, their weapons blazing across space. The human shields held, absorbing the first volley. Return fire, Jack ordered. The battle erupted across the planet's orbit. Ships weaved between each other, weapons firing in all directions. The humans fought with a fury born of 50 years of hiding, of seeing their people hunted and enslaved. But the Scavengers and Confederation had numbers. 3 human ships fell in the first 10 minutes. Another 5 were badly damaged. We can't keep this up, Bell shouted over the noise of the bridge as the Vengeance shook from a direct hit. Jack's eyes narrowed. We just need to hold them a little longer. Where's Captain Sam? Lisa checked her screen. The Ghost has reached the far side of the planet. They're starting their run. Jack nodded. This was the real plan all along. While the main battle distracted the enemy, a small stealth ship named the Ghost commanded by Captain Sam, would approach the scavenger command station on the planet's surface. The Ghost skimmed over the toxic oceans, flying low to avoid detection. Captain Sam, a small, quiet man known for his steady nerves, guided the ship toward a massive structure rising from the barren landscape. That's it, he told his crew of 6. The command station. All their ships are controlled from there. The Ghost landed a mile away. Sam and his team exited wearing protective suits, the toxic air swirling around them. They moved quickly across the rocky ground, carrying a single large case. Guards patrolled the station perimeter, but they were watching the battle in the sky, not the land around them. Sam's team slipped through a service entrance, making their way deeper into the station. In the control room, scavenger commanders chittered excitedly as they watched their fleet gaining the upper hand. None of them noticed the small team of humans entering from a side door. Now, Sam whispered. His team opened fire, their weapons set to stun. The scavengers fell before they could sound an alarm. Sam moved to the main control panel and opened the case they had brought. Inside was a small device, no bigger than his hand. What is that? One of his team asked. Sam smiled grimly. Something from old Earth. A virus. Not for people, for machines. He connected the device to the control system. Lights flashed as the virus spread through the network. jumping from the command station to the scavenger ships in orbit. In space, the battle suddenly shifted. The scavenger ships began to drift, their weapons and engines shutting down. The coordinated attack fell apart as ship after ship lost power. "Now," Jack ordered, "all ships, full attack." The human fleet and their allies surged forward, targeting the disabled scavenger vessels. The Confederation ships, seeing their allies falling, began to retreat. The battle was over in minutes, the scavenger fleet destroyed or captured. The Confederation ships fleeing. On the planet below, Sam stood in the captured command center, watching the victory unfold on the screens. "For Captain Tom," he said quietly, thinking of the merchant ship that had started it all. And across the sector, on 100 worlds, people looked up at the stars and knew that everything had changed. The humans had returned.